to be able to save somebody's life, you know? Yeah. To be able to save somebody's life is to just talk people through some of these challenging moments. That's rewarding. That's rewarding. That's what it's about. That's what it's about. But like you said, it's really just unpacking who you are as a person, not taking things personal, but really helping people just figure out these dark moments in their life where they don't have anyone to talk to. The person that they have is the person that shows up that day. The person they have is that coworker that just stops and go, "How was your weekend? How are the kids? How's everyone doing?" It's the person that just takes the moment to really truly show an ounce of that I care. Not just the high, but I really want to know more about Jim. I really want to know more about my coworker. That's when you get underneath that iceberg.
Welcome back to this episode of No Half Cakes podcast. This episode is going to be an awesome one. I am beyond thrilled to start this one with a very good friend of mine, someone that I had met back in November of this past year doing a speak event. I met this woman for the first time there and knew on the spot that she had it, and that it factor is, you know, when you hear her speak, when you hear her story, when you hear her heart for service, you'll understand. For me, service and leadership are two very important topics, and the depth in which our guest today can go into service and leadership and how to be a servant leader, and just, man, such a heart for people and community. And I'm literally stumbling over words because I am just so pumped to share her with you. So without further ado, Mrs. Adrienne Goodwin. Adrian, I am so happy that you are here with me, and I just wanted to thank you again for taking that time.
No, thank you. It is truly, truly an honor to be here. Like I couldn't wait. This podcast is like in my Google Calendar. Like I'm so excited to just sit down and speak with you. And like you said, November we met, and that was it. That was it. And now we are here. So I'm hoping that your listeners get something from this that they can feed off.
I know that they will. I have absolutely zero doubt that even if you give 1/100th of the value that you gave the last time we spoke, I am absolutely certain that they will walk away with gems today.
Hi, Jim. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. So if you would just, let's start off with a little bit of background about who you are, and kind of just give me a little bit of a quick, brief synopsis of kind of your story.
Yeah, I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm a law enforcement personnel, but my story didn't always start that way. I grew up in a single family household in an urban community during the height of the crack epidemic, and I was that little girl at 9 years old that found that glimpse of hope that I can be all that I want to be, and and I wanted to be the things that I saw around in my community, and that was people who served. And later on, I became a police officer, and that just kind of just started my career. I'm a person who loves self-care. That is like my superpower. I spend a lot of time working out 6 days a week, but that is just what I thrive off. I think, it's so much that we give to other people that we don't give to ourselves. And it's so important that we continue to just take care of ourselves and put us first so that we can pour into other people once our cup is full.
I agree wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
I have to imagine that in your role as a mom and a busy professional who's like, you're not just showing up to a job that doesn't require a lot. That requires a lot, both physically and emotionally and mentally. How have you been able to like really show up in both spots in kind of a meaningful way? Has that been a process?
It's been a process, and it definitely has been a journey. Being a mom, being in law enforcement, just being a career person, being an entrepreneur and an author, I couldn't do this by myself. And I truly lean on my family to kind of help pick up those pieces. We always say we trying to balance everything. At some point, you're going to drop the ball, right? But, it's just important just to be present in where you are. So if you're a mom, you want to be the best mom at that moment. If you're at work, you're going to be the best employee at that moment. You're an entrepreneur, you're going to show up. So every area of your life gets that 100%, but it's impossible to do it all by yourself. So leaning on family has been the saving grace, if I can just say. It truly, truly has. But it hasn't always been that way. I know my husband and I, we had our twins, we both were in law enforcement. So we would drive to Brooklyn, we would switch cars, and we would have these little 3-month-old babies in the car. One would have to go back home and try to figure out that sleep pattern, and one is on the way to work. So there was a lot of trying to navigate, this new space of ours as being parents. But we made it. That's what life is, right? We made it. We overcame that. But it just shows that you could do anything you put your mind to.
It does. I have to imagine that something like that requires a, a deeper level of trust and communication, right? In that partnership to be able to both pursue like meaningful success in work and at home. So I'm curious, like, what are your thoughts on how that has evolved, before/after children?
Yeah, you know what? Communication is the foundation. I've been with my husband. We've been together for 18 years. That's a long time. So you go through these peaks and these valleys, but at the end of the day, as a unit, you have to say to yourself, like, what is the end goal? And one of my roles, I'm a negotiator, right, for a living. And I have to think about the end in mind. Like, what do I want from this situation? Do I want this person to come from out of this barricaded door? Do I want this person to not jump? Do I want this person to not harm themselves? And I have to think about the end goal in mind, and what are the steps that I'm going to take to get there? And that's about assessing the situation where we at. How do we get to the next level? And people, when we think about communication, we can't move forward if there's no understanding. And that's the same principles that I take in my marriage. Where are we trying to go? What's the understanding? And then let's put the steps in place. So being open is key, right? I think when there's a lack of communication, there's a lack of understanding. And we can't define what we don't understand as human beings. We just can't. We can't both try to communicate this new, and we're both all over the place. Like, what do you want? What do I want? What do you want? What do we need? And now let's get there. Let's put those steps in place. And that has
Yeah,
been
that's
saving grace. Is
that's really
and
powerful.
yeah. And you know what? Some people just are afraid to have those hard conversations, even as adults, because we know better, right? We're not children, but even as adults, we find it difficult to have those difficult conversations for a multitude of things. Whether you lack the confidence to speak up for yourself, um, or you just have a hard time really articulating what it is that you want. Maybe you don't speak up because it's a fear of rejection, and that can play out in your relationship as well. Or you don't want to hurt the other person's feelings, so you hold back. But in the end, who suffers? You suffer because you're holding these emotions. But, building that safe space where you can have a partner to build on this communication foundation is the lifeline. Is the lifeline.
Man, I have so many questions I want to dive into on communication, especially around like the negotiation area, because I feel like all of life to some degree is a negotiation between where you're at and where you're trying to go. Um, I just let me start by this. Let's start at the beginning. When you're approaching a situation, whether it's work or home,
Hmm.
right? For a lot of scenarios, I think they're fairly universal in approach. how important do you think it is to get an accurate assessment of the starting point with where you're at? Because I feel like a lot of people, when they're looking to get out of a conflict, whether that's something that they're stuck in by themselves or a relational issue, they don't often paint the right picture of the starting point because they're afraid of being brutally honest with that, whether it's ego or pride or whatever the scenario is. And I'm just curious for your perspective on like getting an accurate starting point and how it affects the end result.
Yeah. So, if I think about it in a practical way in my profession, when I arrive to a scene, I'm trying to ascertain as much information as possible before I even begin the negotiation. I want to know what led us here, what got us to this point. Are there any mental health issues? Are there any other crises in the family, whether it's marriage, divorce, custody battle, financial situations? I want to speak to family members who this person may be close to kind of unpack more of the story, because I need my talking points, right? I need those spaces where I can lean on to try to build compliance, if so to speak. So we don't just go in and begin to talk. We assess. We assess the situation. You do your homework. You build on intelligence. That's important. And those are the same principles that we take in our relationships and our workplaces. You may have a conflict with someone, but there can be things that we just don't see, right? And we think about the iceberg effect. We see 10% of people, right? They have a smile on their face, they look good, they smell good, but underneath that, what is going on? Are they homeless? Are they having financial issues? Are they having marital issues that may impact how they perform in their relationships or in their workplace? So, for us as adults, it's about emotional intelligence, right? It's about leaning on our compassion and grace for people and asking those tough questions. Hey, Bob, I see you doing X, Y, and Z. Is there anything else? Or you may notice that some things are off with people. Their mood swings may change. That is where emotional intelligence come into place. And don't be afraid to ask the questions. Are you okay? That's a great question. Are you okay today? Pause. Give people a chance to respond. How was your weekend? If you really care about someone, you would ask more detailed questions. How was your weekend? And they go, wow, this person really is interested in how my weekend was. Then you can begin to unpack that. Then you can see what lies underneath. And I think that's the key. That's the key. So really taking your time to assess the situation before we unpack it, lead with grace and compassion, and you would get the answers that you want. But you have to check your own temperature too sometimes, right? If you're a person that can be ticked off very easily, if you're not in the right space, then maybe that's not a time to communicate, and that's okay. It's okay to table things and go back to it. Hey, hun, we have this issue on the table, but at this moment, I just want to table it and let's come back. That's the great part of negotiation. You have that control to do that. We don't have to solve every issue at one sitting, it's impossible, but only solve one at a time, right? Let's get some resolution for this one issue, whether it could be scheduling with the kids, right? Let's solve that before we unpack something else.
That's so good. And what I'm hearing you say right there is how important it is to stop before you get into a situation where you just want to vomit your opinion at and you want to
Yeah.
come in with all these preconceived notions, but you got to stop, get a good accurate assessment of where everyone's at and not just what you can see, but what's unseen, right? What are they feeling? Where are they at? I think when you start getting that information in and take a second to actually understand it and unpack it, and then start, really having that conversation, that's gold right there.
That's gold. I mean, you could do a lot, if and it's a skill that we all can develop, and we all do it each and every day, right? In business, in our personal life, going to a hotel and negotiating, checkout time, a couple extra hours. Like, We're always developing those skills, but just being in tune with it and understanding the power of negotiation and the power of influence, because that's what it is. I'm influencing you to behave in a way that I need you to. And I can do that with my words, with my demeanor, with my eye contact, with my body language, giving those breaks for you to explain yourself, right? So it's the verbal and the nonverbal communications skills that we all need to lean on a little bit more. Because what they always say, like we wear our emotions on our sleeves, and people can see when we're frustrated, right? People can see when, you're speaking to them and you're looking all around and you're looking at your phone and, you're just not engaged with them. How important is relationships? You know, Businesses are built off of how we communicate with new potential business partners. Sometimes that business partner doesn't want to, they really don't care much in your product, but they're like, Jim, there's something about you. You're genuine, you're authentic, you're compassionate. I want to invest in you because I feel like this would be a smart investment. That's because of the relationships that you have built in your business. So you've been doing negotiation skills this whole time, Jim. I'm telling you, this is how you got here. It's
Absolutely.
about building those great relationships. Yeah,
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think people don't realize the importance of relationships or don't realize that they're in relationships. Like, I know that might sound silly to say, but a lot of people think when you say you're in a relationship, it's just strictly like husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend.
Mhm.
Like, that's what a relationship is to a lot of people. But you have a relationship with the lady at the Starbucks drive up window. Whether you realize it or not, you have one. And when you start understanding that you have relationships with every person you interact with, even if it's minimal, even if it's once, there's a relationship there, right? And you can treat that person like a human, realize that they're not just a robot who's designed entirely purpose in life to hand you a cup of coffee and then just stop existing, right? They're
Absolutely.
a real person with real struggles. And when you start approaching people as people, right? And I think you give them the grace to show up and unpack, right? To take the mask off and show up as themselves for a second. Like, I think you get really much further ahead in life by just giving people the opportunity to be loved, seen, heard, and appreciated.
That's it. That's it. You said it perfectly. You said it perfectly. Treating people like human beings. That's what it's all about. Holding the door for them. It's little things, right? We can't change the world at the snap of our fingertip, right? But we can change how people think, how people feel, one encounter at a time. That's the power that we have as individuals, is what we are responsible for and how we treat people on a day-to-day basis. We have that power. And if we're not in the right space, then we have to do some internal work. And that's negotiation. Like you said, we always negotiate with ourselves. Are we going to get up? Are we going to eat good? Are we going to work out? What are we doing for ourselves, for our mental, our physical? That's all a negotiation. Do I go? Do I not go? Right? Putting ourselves in the best place that we can be at that day, really taking the
Yeah,
time to unpack who we are and how we want to show up in the world. And I think that's just the work. We have to stay coachable, teachable, at 40 something, we're always learning. And I think that's the great part of life, is that you always look to find those gems and find those connections. So I'm grateful for the connection that we have made. And I know we're just going to build upon this, and who knows what's going to come out of it. But it's showing up. You know what, too, Jim? I'm just like, my mind is turning when you begin to unpack the work within yourself. It allows you the opportunity to experience something new in life. And I think for a lot of us, we don't experience that newness is because we lack the confidence. And I think the confidence plays a big part too in negotiations, but just really developing who we are as people. Because if we were not confident, or if we did not want to share our story at the speak event, we would never have met. None of us would never have met. And that was the first time for a lot of us to share parts of our story in front of a audience of strangers that's on YouTube. But that's about doing the work. You don't just arrive there just by waking up. There's a journey that I think that we all just need to embrace, and unpack as we go through life. For those moments when the opportunity presents itself, will we be ready?
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. And I want to ask you about guardrails, because guardrails, uh, for me, I really term guardrails as your stopping points in either extreme, right? So when you're approaching a situation, you're flexible to a limit. What's that limit? That's the guardrail. I think it's important for two reasons. One is when you have guardrails, it opens you up to be in new experiences because you're not worried about how far do I have to go. You know your limit, right? You know what your guardrail is, so you're able to comfortably step into a new situation, experience some stuff
Mhm.
because you know where your stopping points are,
Yeah.
right? So you're a little bit more free to experience that stuff. But I also want to ask from like the negotiation standpoint, whether it's with somebody else or even in relationships or even in your own life, how do you view the importance of having a guardrail in that conversation?
Yeah, guardrails are very, very important, and every situation is different. And what I think about, like, what that hard stop may be. And it could be a hard stop, or it can be a pause, it could be a pivot. There's a lot of things that can be taking place in a negotiation where, um, the other party may need to step away. Or in my case, they may just hang up the phone on me. Like, I don't want to talk to you right now. Right. And I'm like, okay, so now that gives me a time to kind of assess the situation. But just being in tune with that person and understanding, okay, I think I hit a point where we're really not going anywhere with this talk. We at a standstill. So you know what? Let's pump the brakes. Let's reassess, and then let's come back with a fresh new set of eyes, set of lens on how we can move the needle just a little bit forward. So it just, that intuition kind of will let you know, if you're communicating and you feel like we're playing ping pong just a little bit too long. Maybe that'd be a good point to say, you know what, let's table this, and let's come back and let's figure out what resolutions work best for both of us, because negotiations is about building that win-win solution. I need you to win because I need you to come out. I need you to win because we need to figure out these kids' schedules, um, and I want to win as well. By me winning, I make you win as well, because it's not about you win or I lose in a negotiation. We both win at some point, but then there's a fine line of compromise. We have to be willing to give up something. So you have to ask yourself, well, what is that? What are you willing to give up?
Yeah, what I'm hearing you say there is it's not me versus you, it's me and you versus the problem, right?
That's, yep, that's it.
Yeah. If people could learn one thing and that's it, like if you get that 30-second snippet, you're good. You learn that, man, you will go so far in life with just understanding that in relationships.
That is gold, because sometimes we're in battle with the wrong person. If we think about the iceberg, it's like we have the situation, but our perspectives, we're coming at it from a different standpoint. And sometimes we may not see eye to eye, but how can we work together? How can we bring our own collective experiences to really solve this issue that we're trying to tackle together? It's all about teamwork. It truly is. And in negotiation, you're not by yourself. You have a team of negotiators. You have your leads. As a family, you're not in this by yourself. You have parents, you have kids. How can we sit down collectively and make this work?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
can think of so many scenarios where probably more so in personal than in professional, but I'm sure it's different for everybody. Like you get into a conversation with someone or an argument with somebody and you're trying to prove a point so much to get the win that it gets to a point where you just start getting louder and more angry and you're really just digging in and you're doing no good, right? You've reached far beyond that person's guardrail and you're so concerned with getting the win that you're not caring about how much of a loss you're creating on the other side, and you forget it's again, me and you versus the problem, right? How often do you see that?
Oh, I see that a lot. And what happens in that case? We lose. You compromise your ethics, your empathy, right? These are all the ingredients that we need to have a successful negotiation. You always want to be ethical in everything that you do. You're a business person, we're entrepreneurs. How would it feel if our businessman found out that we just don't operate with a code of ethics? That's not good for business. That's not good for relationships. So having those key ingredients to bake that cake is is pivotal. It's a game changer. It's a game changer. And you never want to compromise that. We don't compromise that in negotiations. We speak the truth. We speak the truth. I don't want to say I understand if I'm talking to someone who's going through a bad divorce. I don't want to say I know what you feel. It feels like. How? I've never been through a divorce, right? Maybe we can pick someone on a team that maybe have experienced that can maybe step in and now take over with that negotiation. But we always want to operate from a place of authenticity, a place of ethics, and compassion. If we can do that, then we can influence the behaviors that we want to see.
Let me ask you this. I think a lot of people come at negotiation with this perspective that you're never supposed to negotiate from a spot of weakness. You have to have the power. And I think it's a tough spot to be, because I think a lot of people lean into ego and pride in that scenario and are afraid to lose, right? They're afraid to give up anything in that negotiation because they want to be seen as the powerful one. They want to be seen as not weak. Um, I'd love to hear your thoughts on power, ego, pride, and that whole thing.
Those are all of the things that are not in the ingredients. Those are all the things that are not in the ingredients of having a successful negotiation, because we cannot lead with ego. Once ego gets in the way, the deal is pretty much done. It's done. It's done. And you see that a lot because people do want power. People, it makes them feel good, it makes them feel important. But in order to get to the other side of the resolution, there's just some soft skills that you will need to influence the outcome. And those are the compassion, that's the ethics, right? That's being authentic. But ego is never in it, because once ego gets into play, your emotions, one of the skill set as a negotiator is suppressing your emotions when interacting with someone else, because we both can be all over the place, right? We're trying to get them to a place that we can rationalize with them. If they're yelling and now you're yelling, that makes for a recipe for a disaster. So even if they're saying things that may trigger you, as the person who has the power to control the situation, but not really demonstrating it in just like their demeanor, like they're not being harsh with their words, but suppressing how they communicate, that's more effective. You can really lead that person to say, okay, I understand. Like I had a 5 hour negotiation with a barricaded, emotionally disturbed person. I say he was emotionally disturbed because he was going through divorce. He was having custody issues with a firearm in his home. I was the lead negotiator on that. And there were moments where those guardrails came up, where I had to take a pause. Um, he wasn't just too happy, right? So I had to allow him space to get all of this anger, this frustration out before he can really, he's like, you sound like a nice person. You really do. But, he just started just going off on a tangent. So you could think 5 hours of us really trying to find this medium to find a resolution. And one of the things that I linked on when I talked about before was assessing the situation and talking to family members, was what is it that he truly cares about? What is it that he loves? what is it that he has so much pride in? And one of the things that his brother has shared was that he was a great dad. He was a phenomenal dad. Like he was the coach for the baseball team. And once we got to a point where he was truly hearing me, um, I brought that up. I said, "This, no, you don't want it. You don't want it in your life. You're a great dad. There's a baseball game coming up, and there was one, so I wasn't lying. There's a baseball game coming up. Your son needs you. No, he'll be fine. He'll be fine. He'll be fine. He needs you." So just having that information, that intel was pivotal in a moment where he was at this high stress level, where he didn't see a way out. And sometimes for us, it's just giving people a glimpse of hope, right? Giving people a glimpse of hope on at this moment, it may not look like there's much going on, but here's a glimpse of hope. It's your kids, it's your mom, it's your daughter. And that kind of gives people to go, okay, I'll come out. But if I met that situation with ego because he just wasn't happy with me or happy with the police, and I'm matching his energy, what would happen? Who lose when ego is present? Sometimes both of us can. So emotional intelligence and just really taking a step back and humanizing situations is the key, Jim.
I can't imagine how you walk through that on the daily. That's a lot. I would really love to know, how do you walk through that from a personal aspect to be able to be on the receiving end of so much, right? Because I'm sure on those conversations, you're getting judged, you're getting accused, you're getting blamed.
Yeah.
Obviously these things, like in a logical state, are not your fault, right? But I think in the moment, to receive all that, you have to have done a lot of work to really know who you are, right? To be able to shut off that judgment.
Oh yeah. That's it's not about me. It's never about me when I approach these situations. It's how can I make this better? That's it. So I don't take it personal. I don't take it personal because I know he's not talking to me. He's maybe talking about the entire entity of law enforcement, right? But it's not about me. We just met. So, I wouldn't take something like that personal. But for me, it's really self care. Sometimes I would take the day off after like a heavy negotiation like that, go to the park, sit down, just kind of relax and unpack that. After that case, the hopes is the American Suicide Awareness. They reached out and they wanted to honor me with the Hope Award for saving his life. And when I got the notification, I just like, I'm about to get choked up now. Um, I cried at my desk. I cried. To be able to save somebody's life, you know? Yeah. To be able to save somebody's life is to just talk people through some of these challenging moments. That's rewarding. That's rewarding. That's what it's about. That's what it's about. But like you said, it's really just unpacking who you are as a person, not taking things personal, but really helping people just figure out these dark moments in their life where they don't have anyone to talk to. The person that they have is the person that shows up that day. The person they have is that coworker that just stops and go, "How was your weekend? How are the kids? How's everyone doing?" It's the person that just takes the moment to really truly show an ounce of that I care, not just the high, but I really want to know more about Jim. I really want to know more about my coworker. That's when you get underneath that iceberg and truly, and I'm telling you, It's gold. It's gold to have this skill set, to be able to navigate through spaces. Sometimes I sit back and I go, oh my gosh, like how did you just navigate through this? Like how did you get this person to say yes? And some people will call just because they know what I do and they go, I'm having custody issues. I'm like, okay, I guess I'll be drafting up emails, but they'll go like, I need to, we need to get on the same page about this sport. And it could be something so simple, like help me draft up an email to get him to say yes, to comply, come into a form of agreement. It's just the way we go about how we show up and how we interact with people. That's just I truly think that we the nation, like we just lost the art of just empathy and just being kind and civility. Like all of those are the ingredients to really having a healthy relationship, not just with coworkers and business people, but your kids. Right? Just looking at things from their lens and why they feel the way that they feel. It's gold, Jim. It's gold.
It is.
Sorry.
Don't please don't apologize. That look, first of all, I want to honor you for doing that because I don't think that that gets enough appreciation, and the work that you do literally changes lives. It changes family trees
Yeah.
because you showed up, right? And you were there and you took the time to actually care about the person on the other side. And that can't be emphasized enough on how important that is. I think when we extrapolate that out and look at, hey, do you spend an extra 3 seconds and talk to the person at the Starbucks drive thru when you pass by? That one little second of saying, thank you, I appreciate you, have a great day, could be enough to just shift their day. Right? And you never freaking know what someone's going through. You never know. Like I talked about it with someone else one time. When you're driving down the road and the car in front of you has a bumper sticker on it that says student driver, you give them a little bit more grace to make mistakes because you understand they're new at this.
Absolutely.
But when we're walking around, we don't have bumper stickers on us that say, uh, you know, childhood trauma, that say divorce, that say whatever the thing is that we're carrying on us that day. We just got this face on, and we go about our day. And people interact with us just thinking about the only thing that's inside of their zone, and that's it. We interact, we walk around, and we forget that other people also want to be seen, heard, loved, and appreciated, and we ignore that. And I think the more that we can have that empathy and we can tap into those things and just not make it about us personally, right, but just be people of service who are willing to take the 2 extra seconds it is to
Yes.
just care about the people that we come across with every day, we're literally changing lives. So, yes, don't apologize. Clap for yourself. I am proud of you. You are not only inspiring me, but everyone who's listening to this and everyone you interact with. So, absolute honor to you.
No, thank you.
It's awesome.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I just, yeah, I can't emphasize enough how those little moments of just interacting with people, and like you said before about it not being about yourself, right? I think you said that so perfectly, and that, yeah, there's risks and rewards for you, right? You're spending some time, you're at risk of getting on the receiving end of all that, but knowing that you did what you were supposed to do, you cared, you gave empathy, you gave grace, you gave that person an opportunity to be heard, to be seen. And I think a lot of us, we get to the spot where we don't feel that, and that's why we act out, because we're just calling for that attention.
But there's no greater reward, Jim, than leaving someone with their dignity. Leaving someone better than where we found them. Not stripping them down to the core, to the bones, to, where they just feel weak and vulnerable and they just don't want to share anymore, but leaving someone with their dignity. That there's enough that they can carry on and move forward with, even if there's a conflict. even if there's a conflict. Sometimes there's good conflict, right? There's good things. Conflict is not always bad. It's not always bad, but the the behavioral staircase and how we handle things is important, right? Those things don't change. The assessing the situation, the active listening skills, right? Those don't change, because in order for us to get up that staircase, there's different steps that we have to take, and sometimes we try to jump jump to the top. But if we really just, like you said, take those couple of seconds to just really break down and understand people. But people want to feel good, right? People just, you know, our identity is consumed with what we do and who we are, as far as, whether it's a title. But we've all experienced things in our lives. We all have. No one has a perfect childhood, right? We can sit back and unpack different things, but the beauty of it is that we all have the resilience to keep moving forward. We lean on people. We find that glimpse of hope. We find that great friend that's just been supportive, or the boss. There are moments in our lives that gets us one step closer to being, who we are, or, unpacking who we truly are, right? Because we take on this mask of being who our parents want us to be, and then, um, just like the outside influences. But then when you really sit back and go, like, who's Jim? Who's Adrian? What do they really want? What makes them get up in the morning and go? What makes them happy? And I think once we unpack that, it's a whole new world. And I think for a lot of people, they go through life just on this autopilot. They go through this life. They never find the confidence to do the things that they truly want, just because maybe they don't have the support, maybe they don't believe in themselves, maybe they, they wear the mommy hat day in and day out, or the wife hat, but they never really take a moment for themselves. But when you do find a time, and I was going to put this in my stories today, it's not about finding the time, it's about making the time for the things that are important to you. We all have 24 hours in a day. How can you schedule in you, right? We schedule in everything else. But do you mark off, I'm going to go to the movies, I'm going to go out to eat, I'm going to go do a massage, I'm making sure I work out. You are just as important as the people you help each and every day. And what good are we if we don't take care of ourselves? And I'm talking about mentally, spiritually, physically. We owe it to ourselves. We do. Self care is, that's my superpower.
Yeah, no, it's
That's where
really
the
important, I think.
creativity starts to flow, and you really just become in tune with yourself, and you go, okay, this feels good. Because when you feel good, everyone benefits. Everyone benefits. The house is happy. It's like, okay, endorphins. You're like, you're good.
Yeah,
But what happens when you don't?
100%.
When you're burnt out, when you're overworked? People can feel the energy in the room. So yeah, self-care. And that's all about that negotiation. That's the personal negotiation, is doing the things to get you to the point in your life that you want to get to. It's going to take time, but really assessing, right? The same principles, assessing where you are and where you want to go and what that's going to look like, and really having those hard talks with yourself.
Yeah, it's so good. I agree with you wholeheartedly on the self care part. Especially in the scheduling, right? We get so busy looking at, like, all right, cool, we've got, here's what next week looks like. You start filling in all the sports practices and the school obligations and everything else you got to do, but you forget to put yourself in there at all. And you're like, all right, cool. If there's any time in there left over for anything, I'll do something for myself. But like, it's no different than when you're on the airplane and they tell you got to put your own mask on first before you help somebody else. Because if you don't pour into yourself first, if you don't fix yourself first, you are literally no good to yourself or anybody around you, right? But we, for some reason, we forget that part. We put so much emphasis on just other people, and we don't take care of ourselves. And the other thing we don't do
Yeah.
is tell other people we need time for self-care, right? Because somehow it feels selfish,
Mm-hmm.
but I believe it's not. Like, you're in a relationship, you should be very comfortable saying, hey, can you do me a favor? I need 20 minutes. I got to go do something for me. I need you to go do this. Cool. That's the give and take of a relationship, right? And I think that that part should be really open and transparent because you're both, again, on the same team for the same mission. But that requires a lot of open communication. And man, once you get to that level, it hits different.
You begin to thrive in life, and you don't have to feel like you're just surviving. I know for
Right.
a lot of people, we're just surviving. Is how do I get through this day? How do I juggle all of this on our schedule? But what would it feel like if you hit the point in your life where you're just thriving? All of the checks and the balances is balancing out. Right? And now you're in a place where you found your inner cadence, right? Everything makes sense. The self-care, the family, goals, vacation, things are just making sense for you. But for a lot of people, they're just in a fight. It's just a battle just for some people to get up in the morning. So they would never experience what life truly has to offer them until they really sit back and just assess the situation and get to a point where what do I need from me? Who am I? Who am I? I'm 40, I'm 30, I'm 50. Who am I? My identity has been X for all of these years. And I never got a chance to do, I want to take swim lessons. And you never just took the moment out to just sign up. It's the little things, Jim, that we just don't do. We fill our calendars up with everything else. We see a white space and we're like, yeah, I got Tuesday open. I got Thursday. Make that for you. And I only talk from things that I experienced because I had to do that. I wanted to take instructional swim classes. And I was like, nope, if I have a meeting, it won't be on that day. I'm going to swim class every Wednesday. I'm going. I had to make the time for me. So I had to put it in the calendar. That means don't schedule anything else for that day. And that's what we have to do. We have to be intentional about the things that we truly want and go after it. Because we know all of these great sayings, right? Put your mask on first, save yourself before you can save others. Like we can coach people all day long, but do we take our own advice? Do we activate all of this wisdom that we truly have? It sounds good to tell other people what to do and how to do it and give them the play by play. But do we truly say to ourselves, you know what? Maybe I should take my own advice. Let's see how this works. Let's switch the table around. We don't. And we know it works. And sometimes that can be just finding someone as an accountability partner, right? To hold you accountable. That's fine. Find someone to lean on. Find someone that you inspire to be or aspire to be, that you say, you know what? I see that you did X, Jim. You know what? Can I just have like a 15-minute call with you like every month? Just someone that you can truly lean on that's in that space that you have navigated through, that they're trying to figure out on their own. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's perfectly fine.
I agree. And I think a lot of people don't spend time on themselves. I think a lot of people don't put themselves as a priority because they don't see themselves as important. I
Mm-mm.
think a lot of that comes from a lack of self confidence. And I think a tremendous amount of that comes from not feeling seen, heard, loved, and appreciated. And we solve that by being those people who give people a little bit of grace, a little bit of attention, a little bit of dignity, right? And by showing up in the world in a way that we honor all the relationships we have,
Yeah.
whether those are 18-year relationships or 8-minute relationships, where we make that person feel like, holy crap, man, there's something different about that woman, Adrian. Like when we spoke, there was a different connection because she actually cared about what I was saying, right? And that's
Yeah.
uncommon, unfortunately. But I think doing the things that we're doing here, having these conversations, going to give talks, writing books, right? Pat yourself on the back for that one. You've been doing work.
Yeah.
Like you're changing lives and inspiring people to be that better version of themselves. So yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. No, it is it was the confidence. Like I had the book idea for 5 years before I published it, but I didn't believe in myself. I didn't believe I was capable, smart enough. I didn't think people wanted to hear the story. I didn't think it was relevant, all of this stuff. And that held me back for 5 years of not publishing the book. And we all have great books in us and great stories that will change someone's life. But the power of believing, the power of really sitting down and saying, I can do this, and just doing it and not waiting for things to be perfect in life. Because I think that's what people wait. They want to make sure that they have all of these boxes checked off. But sometimes you just got to jump in, and I show up to negotiation is, it's on. It's on, let me assess, but all right, who's taking the lead? All right, I think you'll be the great fit, and all eyes are on you, and everyone's just standing there. And that's what we have to jump. We have to jump. Take flight, make the adjustments in the air. But get off the airport pad. Like just get off. Just fly. Make those adjustments, and you'll figure out. Like once you truly trust the process and go, like he'll begin to strategically align people in your life, and information will come forth. You go like, oh, that's who I'm supposed to connect with. Okay, I'm supposed to go to this networking event. Things just begin to make sense, but things won't align until you go. Then all of the pieces will begin to align itself and make sense, right? It's pieces, right? The piece of cake is all over the place, but when you put it together, you go, ah, this was such a beautiful picture, right? This is Look at the cover from what I thought it would to be and what it manifested into. That's the beauty of trusting the process. It's we're going to have those roadblocks. We're going to have those moments where we just don't feel good about the situation ourselves. We're going to hit the roadblocks, but it's to keep going, right? Not really paying attention to that rear view mirror, but looking at the bigger picture in front of you, right? Not getting sidetracked about a little noise in your head, people that don't think that you're capable, but focusing on that big picture view in your car, that navigation, and get there. Put that destination in and just go. Maybe a couple of detours, right? You may have to fix a tire along the way. You may have a pit stop, but you will get to your destination.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a lot to be said too about expectations, because I think a lot of that holds us back. Right? We look at writing a book. I think a lot of people look at, all right, I'm going to write a book, and then when it sells 45 copies, you're disappointed. You're let down. It stops you from doing the next one. Because we expect to be a bestseller. We expect to have 5,000 copies sold because we see other people do it. And we compare ourselves to everyone else.
Yep.
Right? We've entered a phase where it used to be you just did the thing that you wanted to do. You were proud of what you did. You impacted a couple of people. You heard about it because they told you, and that was it. But now we're in a spot where you can instantly compare yourself to 8 billion other people, and it's the worst.
Dangerous.
But change your perspective here. If 45 people had a conversation with you and you were able to positively impact their life, you were able to give them a different perspective that changed the history or the future of their family tree because they now held a different perspective and operated in a slightly different way. What if it was just 4 people?
Yeah.
If you changed 4 family legacies, I think that's pretty cool. But we have these expectations that we set on ourselves, right? And it holds us back from doing so much amazing stuff. So yeah, I can't.
Just one. Just one. Like you said, just doing it because you want to do it, not these big expectations of, that's the world we live in. And sometimes that's the guardrail. Sometimes we have to unplug. We have to unplug and just kind of be by ourselves and really figure out like what is this for? Just getting a message out. It could be a great product for you to get more speaking engagements, to share your story. If people buy the book, they buy the book. It opens
And I
up.
think it goes to what you said before too. It's not about you, right? It's not about me. right? You have a story to tell, go tell it. People need to hear it, but it's not for your right return on investment.
Yeah.
You'll get it, and people will tell you. But if your expectation is, hey, I'm going to do this thing because I want the glory, I want the fame, I want the money, it's not the way.
No. No.
Good. Yeah, I agree so much. All right, I got 2 questions for you, and then we got to wrap this up.
Yep.
Question number 1: if you had one bit of advice to give to someone, to give them an edge on today, to give them a slightly better outlook on today, what would that piece of advice be?
Hmm. If I had to give advice to someone who's listening today, I would say truly sit with yourself at this moment. Just stop. Stop everything that you're doing and figure out who it is you are and what it is that you want to be. And then figure out a plan on how you're going to get there. Don't go another day living in this world where you're not happy. Truly take some time for yourself and unpack that, because you deserve to live the life that you want. And we all have the power. And I don't think people realize, Jim, that we have the power to design the life that we want. That's the power in negotiation. You have that power to design that. So I just want people to assess that.
I love that. I love that a lot.
Yeah.
Last question for you. What's your favorite type of cake?
Red velvet.
I love it.
Oh, I love a good red velvet with the pecans on top, the walnuts.
Ooh,
Yeah.
pecans on top. That's a new one for me. I don't think I've had that before.
Yeah.
All right. Are they like candied pecans?
I don't know. I'm not a baker. Whatever they put on there.
All right.
Yeah, but
All right. Well, I'll have to do some research on that.
yeah, I love red velvet.
Awesome. Well, listen, I cannot thank you enough for this. And I know before we said there would be a nugget in here, I'm pretty sure we got the entire gold rush in this conversation. So thank you for just showing up and for giving your time here. I got personally so much out of this conversation, and I know that everyone listening will as well. If we can support you in any way, what would that look like? How can we support you in this continuing journey of yours to keep inspiring the world?
Yes, sure. So you can head over to adriennegoodwin.com. You will find all of the information on how to work with me. You will see my new project, Twins in the City. Let's learn about police officers. You find a book, you can book me. I do consultations, I do speaking events, but all of my media is housed on adriennegoodwin.com. So just head over there, and I look forward to connecting with you and your audience.
Awesome. Again, thank you so much. This has been absolutely phenomenal.
Thank you, Jim.